Have you ever heard of someone surviving the impossible? Imagine being thrown into boiling oil and walking out completely unharmed. This isn't a fictional story or an urban legend, but one of the most fascinating accounts in Christian tradition. How could this be possible? What happened to John that day? And what does this story mean for Christian faith? Today, we'll dive into this historical and spiritual mystery to uncover the truth behind this extraordinary event. John, one of Jesus' closest apostles, known for his profound spirituality and unwavering love, was a central figure in early Christianity. Not only did he witness Jesus' miracles, but he also became a key leader in the early church. His account of surviving a martyrdom attempt takes us back to a time of intense persecution when being a Christian meant living under constant threat. This story doesn't just challenge human logic, it also underscores the idea of miracle as evidence of divine intervention. But where does this story come from, and how can we understand the depth of this experience? According to Christian tradition, the story of John being boiled in oil appears in ancient writings. Tertullian, a theologian from the 2nd century, is one of the first to mention the event. He narrates that during Emperor Domitian's reign, John was captured, taken to Rome, and subjected to public execution as a warning to Christians. Miraculously, John emerged unharmed, leaving everyone around him stunned. Other church fathers, like Eusebius of Caesarea, also reference similar persecutions, though the absence of this specific story in biblical texts raises questions. Was this event literal, or a metaphor for the strength of Christian faith? The lack of direct evidence doesn't diminish the spiritual impact of this account. The historical context of this story helps us understand its significance. Under Emperor Domitian, Christians faced severe persecution. Christianity was seen as a threat to imperial power, and Domitian used this new faith as a scapegoat for the empire's problem. Just as Peter was crucified upside down and Paul was beheaded, John also faced the wrath of the empire, but unlike his fellow apostle, he survived, seemingly protected by a greater power. The description of the event is powerful. Imagine the scene. Crowds gathered to witness the execution, the heat of the boiling oil rising in suffocating waves, and John, with his unshakable faith, being lowered into the cauldron. Then, something incredible happens. Instead of cries of pain, silence. The crowd watches in disbelief as he emerges unscathed. How can we not recall the 3 young men thrown into the fiery furnace in Daniel 3 or Daniel in the lion's den? These events demonstrate not only divine protection, but also God's power over earthly forces. After the failed execution, John was exiled to the island of Patmos. Picture isolation, far from everyone and everything. Patmos was a barren island used by the empire to banish those deemed dangerous. But it was in this solitude that God revealed to John a vision that would forever change Christianity, the Book of Revelation. It's awe-inspiring to think how something meant to silence him became the catalyst for one of the Bible's most profound and mysterious texts. God transformed suffering into purpose, showing that even the darkest moments can be used for His glory. The theological significance of this story goes beyond the miracle itself. John, surviving the impossible, teaches us about faith and perseverance. His life is a living example of what it means to trust God completely, even when everything seems lost. This leads us to reflect. How do we handle our own moments of challenge? Do we have the courage to believe that God is in control, even in the most extreme circumstances? Of course, some question the literal nature of this account. Some see it as an allegory to illustrate the resilience and strength of Christian faith. Others believe it to be a real event, witnessed and recorded by those close to the apostles' time. Oral tradition played a crucial role in preserving these stories, but, like any tradition, it may have evolved over time. The most important thing, however, is not whether the event happened exactly as described, but the impact this narrative continues to have on the faith of millions throughout history. Today, John's story inspires Christians worldwide, especially those facing persecution. In regions where professing faith still means risking one's life, this account offers hope and courage. For others, It's a reminder that God is sovereign and can transform any situation for His glory. When we reflect on this story, we see that it's not just about a man surviving boiling oil. It's about God's power, purpose in suffering, and the promise that we are never alone. Just as John placed his trust in God, we are called to do the same, no matter the circumstances. If you felt inspired by this story, subscribe to the channel and keep exploring the mysteries of faith and biblical history.